The only way to spare more pain and more loss, the only way.
Only way? What's the only way?
These millstones no longer mark our national mourning. These milestones, I should say, no longer mark our national mourning.
Now imagine being a translator or trying to explain that in sign language, and that is the man at the helm of a conflict between the East and the West and the decoupling of one of the craziest and most complicated times in recorded human history. Yeah. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Ukadowski here of WeAreChange.org, and we have a lot of crazy news to get into, as of course the proposition that the American people are facing is absolutely not a popular one, but there's a lot of bullcrap and hooey surrounding it. We're going to be explaining that, plus a lot more in this video, as well as all the latest developments coming from Ukraine. What's going on the ground, who's winning, who's losing, what's the geopolitical strategy here? Well, we'll get into it from, of course, a totally different perspective than the corporate media that just finally, after 2+ years of introspection, just finally admitted that the Biden laptop story was true, as now officially the New York Times on paragraph 27 admitted that the bombshell story of the current president's son's laptop story was in fact true and not Russian disinformation, as they called it. This is also, quote, the same news organization that also spread the lies of the CIA and told us that there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And with them finally admitting that they were wrong on this topic, that they very clearly incorrectly labeled Russian disinformation, we have to ask ourselves, what else are they getting wrong, especially right now during these very tumultuous, crazy times in the world? Another outright lie that the corporate media sold the American public was, of course, the original story of what happened to Jussie Smollett, who, of course, divided a nation, tried to push for civil conflict within the United States, which he was sentenced for 150 days in Cook County jail for. And this is where some people say his acting stepped into high gear. I would say his connections with the Obamas stepped in, as he was just released 6 days into his 150-day sentence, highlighting once again, if you're rich and well-connected, well, you could literally get away with whatever crime you want to commit, since, of course, justice could be bought in this country. And that, of course, is not the only thing that could be bought from the United States government. Also, political favors, lobbying, laws, rules, regulations that screw the average person over, showing you that within the last 2 years, the federal government has implemented policies that has created poverty for the vast majority of people and huge amounts of wealth for the super uber rich that have profited greatly off of the failed government policies that were implemented and essentially screwed everyone over with such huge profits for such few individuals. We have to start wondering about their influence on these policies, since obviously the government is acting like the cow with endless milkers for these billionaires that have become some of the richest entities on the face of this earth in recorded human history. Let's be honest, there was a lot of money made from this global health crisis that happened within the last 2 years, and there's also going to be a lot of money being made off of the conflict right now in Ukraine. Now, we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit, as of course, billionaires are set to get record profits, and you're told to go fight the war. Now, the government is not just giving the billionaires everything that they ever wanted, the corporate banking class whatever they wanted. It's also deliberately sabotaging you, your financial future, and your ability to exist in modern day society, as of course we're getting the latest numbers from the failed energy policies of this Biden administration that right now has used up its U.S. strategic petroleum reserves to the point where the government is now only down to 33 days worth of oil supply in the United States, its lowest level in history. This, as of course, domestic energy exploration and production has been hauled by the Biden administration, which of course is leading to significant pain and havoc and inflationary pressures on the financial markets, which are only making this problem worldwide that much worse. As of course, the US petrodollar and hegemony is being significantly reduced almost every single day. The government for the last 2 years has disrupted financial markets, international trade, all in the name of safety, and we have to understand that this deliberate destruction of our current financial system is not at its heights, it's not ending, it's only starting to show, it's only starting to begin in many aspects, as even the current president of France has just publicly stated that there will be a deep food crisis in the next 12 to 18 months, specifically in Africa, in the Middle East, and of course also in Europe and the United States. And with the way that things have been going, I absolutely have been expecting this. I have been preparing, I've been learning, I've been talking about this specifically on LukeUncensored.com, our own private platform. The corporate media is going to be telling you they're going to be revving up their PR propaganda machines, trying to blame everything on you, just like they do surrounding the environmental temperatures around the world, as of course CNN openly lectures you about how you need to eat less meat, not travel as much, not be able to heat your own homes, when in reality 100 multinational corporations tied into the global elites are responsible for 71% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And those corporations are usually led by the same people and connected to the same people telling you it's all of your fault that the temperature is changing and you need to pay more taxes in order to make sure it doesn't. Those taxes, again, make sure that the wealth is redistributed in making policies or just handing over your money to those corporations anyway. Do you see the reciprocal system that we have going on here? You get screwed and then you end up paying for your own enslavement. How do you not get screwed? Well, you can't be ignorant of the facts of what's happening all around you. You can't fall victim. You can't fall prey to the multinational corporate banking predators out there who, of course, live off of your ignorance. This is something that I personally hope people are prevented from falling into, and that's why I even created my own club, LukeUncensored.com, in order to try to achieve this goal, where, of course, I have many master classes available to you. I release videos almost every single day, and there's going to be a new video coming out later on today, specifically about renewable energies and the latest topics that even corporate media have been censored on this particular platform on. Again, I'm going to be doing yet another video later on today, LukeUncensored.com. Click the link down in the description below to find out more and to sign up right now. Now, whenever we have a conflict, whenever we have a war, there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of disinformation, there's the fog of war, there's the truth being the first casualty of it, but there is one constant that I think is worth noting, and that is the fact that when war breaks out, it is predominantly the average lower to middle class person that suffers the most, that pays the cost for it, and the elites who predominantly benefit off of it. And that's why we have always been staunchly anti-war, no matter who starts it, and of course the escalation of any kind of conflict, and I still stand strong behind those beliefs, and I think the proposition of what's being discussed in the corporate mainline media is absolutely dangerous, as of course many people miss the larger implications of what is actually being discussed here. As of course what is now being publicly discussed is setting up a no-fly zone inside of Ukraine, something of course pushed on by many neoconservatives, media pundits, and other assets of the military-industrial complex that openly call for it, but don't even explain to the American people what it would mean and what would be the larger ramifications for it. Some of these individuals, like U.S. Congresswoman Maria Salazar, can't even articulate what would happen if there would be a no-fly zone, but it doesn't matter, she is still for it. Those statements are the epitome of absolute ignorance, and those are the people calling the shots, trying to get you and other people involved in this conflict. We are already paying for it in many ways, but at least if you're going to be arguing for a specific position, at least lay out the consequences and help people understand what would happen here. As of course, if we would have a no-fly zone, this would essentially mean that the United States would be shooting down any kind of Russian aircraft inside of Ukraine. And if the United States does that, this would mean a full-scale war between Russia and the United States, two nuclear powers run by two very old leaders who have significant questions about their cognitive abilities being asked right now. And again, the implications, the dangers are here, no matter how many times they are obfuscated by blue check mark individuals on Twitter. And we have to address the situation that by and large, this larger neoconservative push for a global conflict between the United States and Russia in mainline corporate media has not been pushed back. There's some anti-war individuals literally calling for a no-fly zone. The discussion and debate isn't even being had, and from my opinion, understanding the horrors of war, it is absolutely disgusting to be calling for more of it. Using word games, using tricky rhetoric is not going to confuse and obscure the true reality of what these people are advocating for, as already there is a massive human toll and price paid in Ukraine because of the insanity pushed on by some politicians on the public of Ukraine. And again, whether it's the citizenry of Donetsk that was also attacked, or the overwhelming massive amount of citizenry caught in the middle of the attacks in Ukraine, one life is one life too many, and we should be preventing and trying to de-escalate this conflict, not only to protect American geopolitical interests, not only to try to reassure American hegemony, not only to act like the bigger player here, allowing the world to see us as more of a reasonable, more of a calm presence on the world stage, but also, of course, to prevent more life loss. It's that simple in my book, and you might think I'm totally wrong, but I think it's fair to say that the policies instituted by the United States are doing the opposite of that, especially with more weaponry being dropped off in Ukraine, which is only going to lead to more life loss. Now, of course, there's some people arguing that you need a tougher approach against Russia, which is the clear aggressor here, which clearly did start this conflict here. And I think it would be fair to argue those points. And I could even allude that I might be wrong in some perspectives here, especially when it comes to geopolitical strategy. But I think at first the conversation needs to start, and I don't think it has. This, as the United States has just sent an additional $800 million U.S. security aid package to Ukraine, which of course will include a lot of the latest military hardware that the Ukrainians will now be using against the Russian forces, specifically anti-tank weapons, grenade launchers. There's some people criticizing this move as an escalation. Other people are criticizing it as not enough aid. Other people are criticizing it, saying it's too late. And I think it's very fair to say that there's a lot of criticism to go around during these very turbulent times. How will these weapons impact the battlefield? Where I think it's also fair to say that some of this hardware and secret CIA training that has been going on inside of Ukraine for the last few years has been paying off, as of course there is a lot of documented photos and videos of a lot of Russian hardware being taken out and obliterated in this conflict. Now, according to the Russians and their own version of events, everything is going according to plan, that this is a part of a larger strategy being implemented by Vladimir Putin. And with the fog of war, it's honestly hard to see which clear theory is correct here. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a situation where both of these theories could be correct, whether it's Team B being sent out to Ukraine, sending out cannon fodder, sending out old equipment that they have no use for, or whether it's a breakdown of communications, of strategy, of supply lines, as of course we have very interesting articles, specifically by the Daily Mail, detailing how Russia is, quote, in a dangerous position with its, quote, biggest difficulty yet, selling what they're calling a disastrous war to his own people, as some military strategists are saying that Putin only has 3 moves left in Ukraine and has already lost significant amounts of troops, with some people even speculating that over 28,000 Russian troops have been taken out during this conflict. Now, it's fair to note that there's other estimates that this number is as low as a couple hundred. There's other estimates around 7,000. It's fair to say that the Russian strategy has been the shelling of Ukraine. What are the true numbers here? Well, of course, we still do not know. I do believe that this conflict is expected to go on a lot longer than a lot of other people have. I still think it's very fair to say that we're in the beginning phases of this, and if other conflicts historically recently have context to provide, it is that this will be a long, drawn-out, nasty conflict that will, of course, surge and resurge, and with the tragedy and pain being felt here, continue on for a lot longer than a lot of people have expected. One thing that is clear is that the rhetoric is getting very heated between the United States and Russia, as of course we have this video showing Joe Biden very casually calling the president of Russia a war criminal, which Russia has officially responded to, saying it is, quote, unforgivable and unacceptable. Now, it does look like Biden made this comment in an offhanded reference, and whether it was deliberately said or not, we have to understand that the language is also as hyperbolic in Russia, where the former president of that country is coming out and saying that Russia needs to put the United States in its place for, quote, stoking disgusting Russophobia and, quote, trying to bring Russia to its knees. That's the sentiment being felt by some Russians, especially within the state media, especially within some of the governments there. There also have been a lot of protests and a lot of Russian people that have been indiscriminately affected by sanctions that, of course, have predominantly hurt the average poor Russian person. Here in the United States, I definitely think we need more of an honest dialogue and a debate, at least a discussion about the larger ramifications being called for here. But I think it's pretty clear that we're seeing the correlation here, that it's the average person, whether in Russia, in Ukraine, or the United States, essentially paying the price of the political ambitions by senile, old, crazy people that literally have a button on their desk that could eliminate and destroy this entire world. Being in that kind of situation is not a very easy one. And what the hell? This is not a situation to be in. It's not even an easy situation to talk about. But if you thought I did an okay job, we're doing our best here to try to give you a fair, honest perspective that's the opposite of the corporate media, but still has a baseline and the true reality of what actually is happening here without shilling for either side. And if you thought we did an okay job at that, share this video with your friends and family members, because you do, because you start your conversations with your neighbor, with your supermarket employee, the lady checking you out. Talk to these people, engage with them, see where their heads are at, because truly, as I was just saying on LukeUncensored.com, one of the best currencies you could have on the face of this earth is social currency. The people you know, the skills you know, the trades you know, and I think a lot of those things are going to be absolutely crucial within the next coming weeks and months. I got another video coming your way on LukeUncensored.com. If you want to watch another video on YouTube that gives you more perspective about what's going on here, I would definitely recommend watching this video. Click on it right now in the description below. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.